Hey folks, my name's Ed Trevors. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm an Anglican priest serving in the beautiful parish of Christchurch-Shelburne that sits on the ancestral and on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Now last week, first week of Lent, we talked about the wilderness. We talked about its benefits, we talked about its challenges, we talked about the gifts, we've talked about the spirituality of the wilderness. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about life. In particular, we're going to talk about giving up our lives. In the gospel from this past Sunday, we read from the Gospel of Mark, the 8th chapter. In it, Jesus tells his disciples everything that's going to happen to him. He tells them that he's going to die, that he's going to be raised up. He tells them why. Peter takes him aside. And the Bible said Peter rebuked him. Jesus, that's just not going to happen. Say it isn't so. And then Jesus utters those infamous words, "Get behind me, Satan. Your mind is set on earthly things. Set your mind on heavenly things." And then it says Jesus turns to the crowd, not just to the disciples, but to the crowd, and says to the people that are there, "Anybody who wants to follow me, you must be willing to take up your cross. You must be willing to deny yourself. For those who seek to save their lives will lose it. But those who lose their life for my sake, they'll save it." In the Christian church, we have these folks called martyrs. They're people who have given their life, literally given their lives, murdered, tortured, killed for their faith. These are people who refused to renounce their faith in Jesus Christ, and they suffered for it. They suffered to death for it. We've seen them ever since the very beginning of the church. Stephen, I believe, is the first martyr. After his wonderful speech to the people in the Sanhedrin, it says they freaked out, grabbed him, rushed him outside, and stoned him to death. But we still see it in today's world as well. We see people being made martyrs of the Christian faith just fairly recently, in the last couple of years in the Middle East when ISIS was growing in popularity. They released videos where they decapitated Christians who refused to renounce their faith. You often hear people say, "Oh yeah, I'd die for Jesus." But this idea of giving up our life, it's more than just a beating heart. It's more than just brain function. In Jesus' context here, and yes, it can mean death, it can mean physical death, but it means a lot more as well. He uses the word, you must deny yourself. You must deny yourself. You must be willing to experience all kinds of deaths. All kinds of deaths, not just the physical kind. You must be willing to deny yourself the rewards and the comforts of this world and embrace the teachings, embrace the path that Jesus calls us towards. Life for Jesus is more than just a beating heart. It's more than just blood pumping through your veins. It's more than just physically being alive. Life for Jesus is what we live. It's the experience of our lives. It's what we do, what we see, what we hear, what we say, what we think, what we believe, what we value, what we dream, what we cherish, what we desire. Life is the experience of our time on this earth. And he says, you must be willing to deny yourself that. It's a tough old lesson. You must be willing to deny yourself that. For those who want to keep it, for those who want to keep that stuff for themselves, for those that want to desperately cling to everything that this world offers them and every experience they can have in this world their way, they're going to lose it all. But those who are willing to give it all up for me, they will have it and more. It's a tough old lesson. It is a tough old lesson for Christians to get behind. We love the idea that Jesus would come into our lives just the way our lives are and make them better. But that's rarely ever the case. Jesus comes into our lives and asks us to let go. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you, and may you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. I pray that you and I can find the courage we need to let go, to embrace what could be. Amen.